It was supposed to be an ordinary summer night, just another evening in a quiet town where nothing truly dangerous ever seemed to happen. But for 22-year-old Emily Carter, what started as a short walk home would end as one of the most haunting disappearances the community had ever faced. And the last words she ever spoke to her family still echo in their minds to this day. Emily Carter grew up in Lexington, Kentucky. She was the kind of young woman people described as the light of the room. Outgoing, funny, protective of her younger siblings, and deeply loved by her parents. She was studying nursing at the University of Kentucky, determined to help people. Friends remember her constantly smiling, always putting others first. She had just begun to imagine her future, a career, a family, a life filled with possibility. But none of them knew that future was about to be stolen from her. On the evening of June 11th, 2017, Emily attended a small gathering at a friend's apartment near campus. It wasn't anything wild, just a few friends, music, and laughter. By 11:30 p.m., she sent a quick text to her mother. "I'll be home soon. Don't wait up." Her mother replied with a heart emoji. Neither of them could have imagined it would be the last message Emily would ever send. At 12:08 a.m., Emily left the apartment. It was a warm Kentucky night, the streets quiet, the campus security lights glowing in the distance. She had made the same short walk before. Only half a mile, 10 minutes at most. A route she thought she knew well. A route she thought was safe. But somewhere along that path, someone was watching. At 12:14 a.m., Emily called her boyfriend, Chris. Her voice was calm at first. She told him she was walking and would be home soon. But in the background, there was something unusual. Shuffling noises. Her tone shifting from casual to nervous. "Hold on," she whispered to him. "There's a car. It's been behind me for a while." Chris told her to stay on the line, to walk faster, and get somewhere with lights. Her breathing grew heavier. "It just stopped," she said. The car stopped. Then a sharp sound. The phone went silent. Chris shouted her name into the receiver, but there was no response. That call, at 12:16 a.m., was the last anyone ever heard from Emily Carter. When Emily didn't come home, her mother assumed she had stayed at a friend's. But by morning, panic set in. Her bed was untouched. Her phone went straight to voicemail. And the young woman who never ignored her family was suddenly gone. Her parents called the police. Her friends retraced her steps. And her boyfriend handed investigators the phone records, the chilling call that ended without warning. The search began immediately. Detectives pieced together the night. They interviewed the last people who saw her at the apartment. They checked surveillance footage from campus. And what they found only deepened the dread. At 12:13 a.m., a dark sedan was captured driving slowly behind Emily, just one block from her friend's apartment. Moments later, the car disappeared from the cameras. And so did Emily. Her family canvassed the neighborhood. Posters went up. Volunteers searched wooded areas, riversides, and abandoned lots. The community of Lexington came together, desperate to bring her home. But behind every search party, behind every vigil, was the crushing weight of her last phone call. Her boyfriend replayed it over and over. Her mother asked herself if she should have stayed awake. And her father, Jim, broke down as he told reporters, "She sounded scared, and I wasn't there to protect her." By day 3, investigators had a lead. A gas station clerk just outside Lexington recalled something unusual that night. Around 12:30 a.m., a young woman matching Emily's description had been seen near the station. But she wasn't alone. She was with a man, a tall figure in a baseball cap, guiding her quickly toward a dark sedan. The clerk remembered how odd it seemed, how Emily's eyes looked wide and terrified, but before he could react, they were gone. Police traced the vehicle to a man named Daniel Cross, 35 years old, a local handyman with a history of stalking and harassment, charges that had never led to convictions. Neighbors described him as quiet but strange. Women in the area admitted he made them uneasy. When detectives arrived at his home, the car was there. But Daniel was not. Inside his garage, investigators discovered chilling evidence. A torn piece of fabric, later matched to Emily's dress, and her necklace, broken, lying in the corner. but there was still no sign of Emily. As days turned into weeks, hope began to fade. Searches expanded into rural Kentucky. Her family clung to the possibility she might be alive. But detectives grew convinced they were looking for something far darker. Her mother said through tears at a press conference, "If anyone has her, please let her come home. She's our baby. She doesn't deserve this." The town of Lexington waited, and the clock ticked on. By the fourth week, investigators received a tip. Daniel Cross's car had been spotted crossing into Tennessee, and surveillance footage confirmed he wasn't alone. The grainy image showed him at a rest stop, with a woman matching Emily's description. Her hands appeared restrained. Her expression was blank, and in that moment, detectives realized she was still alive. For Emily Carter's family, it was both hope and horror. She hadn't vanished into thin air. She was in the hands of a dangerous man, and what happened next would shock even the most seasoned investigators. Emily Carter's last phone call had ended in silence. A car pulling close, her whisper filled with fear. And then, nothing. For nearly a month, her family clung to fading hope. Search parties scoured Lexington. Flyers covered every streetlight, every storefront, and her parents prayed for a miracle. But behind the scenes, detectives believed Emily was still alive. And with every passing day, the race to find her grew more urgent. Investigators were now hunting Daniel Cross, the 35-year-old handyman tied to Emily's disappearance. Inside his garage, they had found her necklace and pieces of her clothing, and security footage showed him crossing into Tennessee, with Emily by his side, her hands bound, her expression hauntingly blank. For police, this was the break they needed. Emily wasn't gone. She was being held captive, and they had to move fast. Federal marshals joined the case. Cross's face spread across news outlets nationwide. Tips flooded in. Then a lead emerged. A farmer near Knoxville, Tennessee, reported seeing a dark sedan parked on his property. The man driving matched Cross's description, and he wasn't alone. Detectives rushed to the scene. By the time they arrived, the car was gone, but inside the barn they found fresh tire marks, rope, and duct tape. Emily was still with him, alive, but running out of time. For Emily, those weeks were a living nightmare. Cross kept her moving between motels and abandoned properties, always one step ahead of police. He controlled her food, her movements, her voice. At night, she lay awake, terrified. Sometimes, she heard him pacing outside her door. Sometimes, he spoke as if nothing were wrong, as if they were a couple on some twisted road trip. But in her heart, Emily refused to give up hope. She thought of her mother, her father, the last phone call with Chris. She promised herself that if she ever got the chance, she would fight to survive. That chance came sooner than anyone expected. On July 7th, Cross checked into a roadside motel in Chattanooga. He paid in cash, covering his face with a baseball cap. But something caught the clerk's eye. The young woman with him looked frightened, her wrists red from restraints. When the clerk tried to make eye contact with Emily, she looked down quickly, but not before flashing the faintest, most desperate signal. A blink. Twice. It was enough. The clerk called 911. Within hours, the motel was surrounded. Federal agents moved in quietly, knowing Emily's life was at stake. Inside, Emily sat on the edge of the bed, trembling. Cross paced the room, his gun in hand. He knew the police were closing in. He could hear the helicopters circling, and he was unraveling. "If they come in here," he muttered to her, "it's over for both of us." Emily begged him to let her go. She told him he could still walk away, still end this without bloodshed. But Cross was far beyond reason. And then the knock came. "Daniel Cross, this is the FBI. We know you're inside. Step out with your hands up." Emily's heart pounded. She thought of her family. She thought of survival. And she realized, if he pulled the trigger, she might never see them again. In a moment of courage, she made a decision. As Cross turned toward the window, Emily lunged for the motel door. She threw her weight against it, running into the hallway, screaming for help. Gunshots exploded behind her. Bullets shattered the drywall as she sprinted toward the agents waiting outside. Hands pulled her to safety, and in that instant, Emily Carter was free. Cross was dragged from the room minutes later, screaming, thrashing, and spitting threats. But the evidence against him was overwhelming. DNA matched to Emily's belongings. Surveillance footage tracking their every move. And Emily's testimony, her terrifying account of the nights in captivity, sealed his fate. The trial that followed was swift. Jurors sat in stunned silence as they listened to Emily's last phone call played aloud. The whisper, the fear, the silence. Her mother wept openly in the courtroom. Her father gripped her hand. And when the verdict came, guilty on all counts, the community of Lexington finally exhaled. Justice had been served. For Emily, freedom was bittersweet. She had survived the unthinkable. But the trauma of those weeks never truly faded. The sound of tires on pavement still made her heart race. The echo of that last phone call haunted her dreams. Yet she chose not to let it define her. She returned to her nursing studies, determined to help others heal. She spoke at community events, warning young women to trust their instincts. And she became an advocate for missing persons, ensuring families like hers would never feel alone. When asked how she survived, Emily gave a simple answer. I kept thinking of the people I love. I wasn't ready to let them go. The story of Emily Carter is one of terror, courage, and ultimate survival. A reminder that even in our safest moments, danger can lurk where we least expect it. But it is also proof that hope, courage, and love can outlast even the darkest of nights. And though Emily will never forget the last phone call before she disappeared, she now carries the strength of having come back. Stronger, braver, alive. Final reflection: evil thrives in silence. But justice speaks louder. Emily's survival and Daniel Cross's conviction stand as a warning and as a lesson. To trust your instincts, to hold on to hope, and to never underestimate the power of a single choice, the choice to fight for your life. Because sometimes that choice is the difference between a tragedy and a miracle. If this story gripped you, hit subscribe for more cinematic true crime. Share this video to keep Emily's story alive. Drop a comment. What would you have done in Emily's place? Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next mystery.